Welcome to this episode of Random I Am. I'm so happy that you could be here. Don't forget, if you like this, please like and subscribe. If there's something that you would like to hear me talk about, well, give me a hint. Contact me. You know how to do this, and I'll give it a shot. Today I'm going to be talking about when I was a young mother and I worked in a bookstore. Oh my goodness, I loved that job. That was the best job ever. You could be so smart if you work in a bookstore because everybody wants to know something and you kind of need to know about everything to answer their questions. Anyway, I would work evenings and my children's father would take the con, and then I'd come home and get everything put back together for the next day. Well, one evening I came home from work and I smelled skunk right when I got out of my car. Oh boy, oh boy. So I went in the house and it too smelled like skunk. And I asked the children's father, I said, "So, was there a skunk about?" And he said, "Oh, there was a skunk in the yard and the dogs were out, but I don't think they got sprayed. All right, I'm going to bed now. Good night." Well, as the night went on, the skunk smell grew and grew and grew in the house. By morning, your eyes were burning. It smelled so much like burning rubber. It was terrible. The children were crying. Well, fortunately, my daughter had to get off to school, and my children's father went off to work, and I said, "All right, I've got this." So I called the veterinarian, and I asked him, "What should I do?" Because the problem was there was not enough tomato juice in the world to take care of a 150-pound Newfoundland. Oh, by the way, did you know that Newfoundlands are waterproof dogs to boot? Go figure. So I called the veterinarian, and the veterinarian said to me, "I appreciate this problem, so this is what you'll need to do. You need to wash your dog with a very flowery shampoo and then rinse him really well. Now, I need you to get enough Massengill powdered douche to make 5 gallons. That's a 5-gallon bucket. Mix that all up, and while he's still wet from the bath, pour this all over him and let it dry on him, and that will neutralize the skunk smell." "Oh, very well," says I, "and thank you very much." So I packed up my little baby and we went off to the grocery store. I have never purchased this product, but I can figure it out. So I went to the pharmacy department and I'm looking at all the boxes. Oh my goodness, there were boxes and bottles and nozzles and Comfort Fit and this and that. And did I remember to tell you that I'm a young mother? This is all embarrassing to me, but it's for my dog. And of course, I'd do anything for the dog. So I'm looking at everything and I can't find what the veterinarian suggested. And I'm looking, and so the pharmacist came out, and she was a little old lady, and she says, "May I help you, dear?" Because she saw that I was definitely confused. And I said, "I'm looking for a Massengill powdered douche. And well, we have this product, and we have that product, and we have this other one." And I said, no, I was told it had to be this, and I need enough to make 5 gallons. And she looked at me and she said, "Isn't that excessive?" And I said, Oh, it's not for me. It's for my dog." Well, and then she said very abruptly, "We don't have any." And I left. And so, all right, let's try a real pharmacy. So I went to a real pharmacy. And again, they had all the bottles and nozzles. And I found out that the hot water bottle, by the way, is not a hot water bottle. I was tricked for many years of my life. Anyway, I digress. So I was able to find the product that I needed. I had to buy like 10 boxes of the stuff, if that isn't embarrassing, and then go to the cash out, and there's a young man at the cash register. Oh, this is really, really embarrassing, but anything for my dog. So I went home, and I put my son down for a nap, and I proceeded to wash the waterproof dog with flowery shampoo, mix up the product in the 5-gallon bucket and then put that into a watering can and kept sprinkling it all over him. And I didn't know how it worked, but don't want to miss a good story. So I had to call my father at work and I had to tell him the whole story about Angus and the douche and the skunk. By the way, Angus is the Newfoundland's name. So my father thought that was a heck of a fun thing, and he got a good laugh out of it. Well, hours later, I got a phone call from my children's father who worked at the same location as my father. He said, there's been an accident. There was an explosion. Your father got blowed up. He's at the burn unit. This is how you get to him. All right. So I got a sitter for my children really quickly, got in the car, called my mother before I left and told her the news, and she said she'd get to the hospital fast as she could. Well, I wound up getting there first. Got to the hospital, and there's my poor papa. Yep, he was blowed up. His whole adult life, or as long as I knew him, anytime there was anything dangerous that he was going to do, he would reach out with his left hand. That means lifting the tea kettle off the stove, opening up the paint thinner, opening up a paint can, anything. So he had his left hand trained to know to do things in case of an emergency. Well, he had an emergency at work, and at the very last minute, when the explosion happened, he lifted his right arm to cover his face, and he turned to the left, taking the full impact on his side and stuff. Well, it was all right. I mean, he got over it. But there he was in the burn unit and sitting there at a cafeteria chair backwards with a towel over his lap. But I could see his back, and you could see where his belt was, and you could see where his wallet was. And it's like, oh, Papa, are you okay? How are you doing? And he says, I'll be all right. How's Angus doing? Well, I said, my nose just doesn't seem to be right. I still smell skunk. How do I smell to you? And he looked and he turned and he sniffed a little bit. And at that very moment, before he said anything, there was 4 nurses coming in the door, and they all had basins and towels and tools and trays. They were just coming out of a little pep rally to prepare to do the hardest thing a nurse has to do with a burn patient. And so they had their meeting, and they came in that door just as grim as can be. You could just see they were dreading what they had to do. So as they were marching in the door, my father turned to me, sniffs with his nose, and he says, "You smell like a douchebag." At that very moment, the 4 grim-faced nurses simultaneously spun on their heels and exited the room. Laughter sometimes can be pretty good medicine. And that was my father. He was just that kind of person. He did survive that, and he was able to help his roommate survive his burn incident. And he went on forever telling the story about Angus and the skunk and the day of the burn. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye now.